in which Professor Tripathi had given a great talk on scribes, the duties of scribes, the functions of scribes, what the scribes do, the process by which they create manuscripts, the constraints. So it was a very wide-ranging talk, citing many, many sources. After that, there was a game that through a game, Naresh developed a kind of course in which he was introducing what is manuscript scriptology, what it is to edit a text, and I think he still has to put together the result of what went on yesterday. So today we'll have, and also Arpan also is going to talk about the about Katapayadi, some devices that manuscriptologists use for numbers, for putting words together. So all this is happening today, and today is the second and the final day of this. I wish we had prolonged it to a few more days, because I'm sure there is a lot of interest among people, history people, students, and people like that. But anyway, now we'll start with Professor Tripathi talking about illustrated manuscripts. Professor Radha Vallabh Tripathi need not be introduced again. He's very well known, and I assume that everybody has heard him yesterday. Today, he's going to talk about, like I said, on how does illustrated manuscripts work, and I welcome him to give his lecture. But before that, would you like to say something very preliminary about what you did yesterday and what you're going to do today to for the game that you had devised? Just a small introduction, and then we will wait for it after Professor Tripathi's talk. Thank you.
Sure. I'll be brief. So what we did yesterday was...
Could we just wait for this then? Actually,
Sure.
Yeah. I think he's on his way. The professor, the Ambassador Shyam Saran is on his way, but we don't need to wait. I think we can start. You could start, I think.
Thank you, Dr. Sudha Gopal Krishnanji, and a warm welcome to all of you, and good afternoon. I will be talking on the illustrated manuscripts, though painting is not my area of study. And we find that there are illustrations in the manuscripts, in some of the manuscripts, and those illustrations are in the form of sometimes they are sketches, drawings, and sometimes they are paintings, miniature paintings as we call them. So they provide very good material for study, and they support the text. They are aids to the study of the text. Can we open the slide? So I believe that the illustrated manuscripts have contributed to the art of Indian painting, and they could get excellent painters to illustrate some of the text. So type of the text that are taken up in illustrated manuscripts in Sanskrit. So epics and poems, Mahakavyas, etc. Poems like Meghdoota and others, and epics Ramayana and Mahabharata. Then philosophical texts have also been taken up for illustrations, like Bhagavad Gita and Yoga Vasishtha. Bhagavad Gita, if time permits, I will take up. Otherwise, I have a lecture on YouTube on Bhagavad Gita in paintings, Gita in painting. And Yoga Vasishtha, the text has not been recovered here. The manuscript is lying in Dublin. And there's one Naman Ahuja here who is working on the manuscript. He has prepared a copy of it. Akbar got it. Akbar got the Persian translation of Yoga Vasishtha done. And Akbar always got his manuscripts illustrated by fine painters, very artistically illustrated through miniature paintings, as is Ramayana and Mahabharata, that is Rajmanama. And then some text of stories, narratives, fables, like Panchatantra, they also have illustrated manuscripts. Then where are the illustrations in the manuscripts? There are occasional illustration for a particular episode in the text, or there are illustrations for each and every stanza in a text if it is in verse, if it is in versified form. So each and every stanza can be illustrated. And
something coming out of, where is this coming?
outside, I think. Then the third is that the text are used to give titles or descriptions for the paintings. You may not call them manuscripts, but in a way the texts are there. Some text is there and then the illustration is there. Basically, they are by painters and they are paintings actually, but the text accompanies them. So the textual material is there, like Ragmala series or Geet Govinda. So the Geet Govinda Sanskrit verses are written, songs are written, and then paintings are there. So these three forms we get the illustrations in with the text or manuscripts. What happens to the? Okay. So I will not take much time, just to give you a sort of idea or a glimpse. It is Ramayana in Persian translation done by which was got done by Akbar. Akbar was interested in Indian mythology and Indian text and philosophy. A wonderful person. You see, Akbar was a genius. So is Ramayana in Persian? What he did, like yesterday we talked that there were copies. So he imprinted so many copies, and he loved to gift these manuscripts to his courtiers, to whomsoever he desired. So Abdul Rahim Khan Khana also got multiple copies prepared. He was also a great connoisseur and great poet, a great Hindi poet and a Sanskrit scholar. He's written in Sanskrit. So there are so many Muslims involved in the act, Abul Fazal and others, and they are scholars. In this exercise, they are associated with. So this is Ramayana, the scene of burning of Lanka. And we cannot see it minutely here, but on the downside, there is a pandemonium, people are running, and the golden Lanka, the prakar or walls are shown, and there is smoke above is rising, at Lanka is set on fire by Hanumana. That is the scene. Unfortunately, I took the pictures from the published books. So from actual painting, I have not taken the pictures, and it is not the actual size. Then this another episode from Ramayana, the defeat of Rama's army at the hand of Kusha and Lava is being reported to Rama. And it is again Akbar's manuscript in Persian, Ramayana translated in Persian. Rama is sitting in his court on the throne. There is a scene of court, you see, and the Persian description is at the top of it. So this is one example. Then there are scenes from Rajmanama, that is book on war, that is Mahabharata. Rajma is war. And this is attempt at disrobing Draupadi. Dushasana is trying to disrobe Draupadi, and the whole lot of her garments or sari is shown here. Dushasana is here in the middle, Draupadi is on my left side, and the courtiers, they are here. Duryodhana, Bhishma, Drona, and other courtiers are there. Elders are also there, and the description is given in the middle and the top of it. And these manuscripts contained faithful translations in Persian. So the Bhandarkar Research Institute, when they took up this Mahabharata critical edition project, they utilized this Rajmanama also to for their apparatus, for their critical addition to tally the readings. And then this is another scene, Krishna visiting the Pandavas. So it is Pandavas are there in I think they are in Dvaitavana, and preparations for war are being discussed, and Krishna is visiting. He is having a sort of meeting with them. Pandavas are shown. I think they should have been a bit nearer so that we could have seen the details. So from here, I myself cannot see. Now, there is a painting from Panchatantra. It is also from the Mughal period, and Persian text is on the top of it, and some wild animals devouring the carcass remains left over of a animal, and Panchatantra story being depicted. Then I will come to Saundarya Lahari of Shankaracharya. As we all know, it's a great philosophical and devotional poem. It brings out the aesthetics of a divine experience and the kinetic energy imbued, the physique of the goddess together with its sublimity and sensuousness gives an idea of beauty that is powerful and delicate. It's a great stotra kavya with nakshik varnan of the goddess, the whole physique of the goddess. And then tantric and esoteric motifs are also there. So I was wondering how such a philosophical text can be put into another art form, that is painting. And when I laid my hand on this book, Rajan Nanavati, who was my friend, he has been working on it, and we invited him to deliver lecture on Saundarya Lahari in paintings. Ultimately, after his retirement, he produced this volume of Saundarya Lahari, published from
Who did?
Eh?
Who was the one?
Rajendra Nanavati. Rajan Nanavati. You must see it. It's a wonderful work. And at the empirical level, Saundarya Lahari depicts the motherly face of a Kerala woman. See, everything is the nose ornament and Kanchi Shati and Prathukati Tate Hatakamai, etc. At the subtle levels of spirituality and esotericism, it creates an aura of divinity and blissful experience. So to create paintings for such a text, stanza by stanza, was something marvelous, which one of the painters could do. So the illustrated manuscript of Saundarya Lahari, it was at Government Oriental Institute, Baroda. It should be GOI, sorry. And it is published under the GOS, Government Oriental Series, Baroda Institute. It had 53 folios with 2 stanzas on each side of a folio. So each folio contains 4 stanzas, and then it makes, each folio contains 2 stanzas, then it makes 104 stanzas. Some editions of Saundarya Lahari have 101 verses, some have more, and 104 I think is maximum. I have not seen an edition having more than 104 stanzas. And then the size of each folio is 8.50 inch by 4.75 inches. Verses written in the space covering 3.3 inches by 2.8 inches, and remaining space is devoted to painting. The remaining space is 3 inches by 2.8 inches. So there is a fair division between the text and the illustration, and they almost cover equal space on each page, both the sides, that is a folio. The manuscript is about 250 years old, and it is on handmade paper. Handmade paper came by the time. And 7 colors are used in each painting, almost in all of the paintings, with a golden hue, and that is dressing is done with golden powder. So I will just give some examples. One should study each and every stanza and the way the painter has created it. Shiva Shaktya Yukto Yadi Bhavati Shakta Prabhavitum न चेदेवं देवो न खलु कुशलः स्पन्दितुमपि अतस्त्वामाराध्यां हरिहर विरिञ्चादिभिरपि प्रणन्तुं स्तोतुं वा कथमकृत पुण्यः प्रभवति. The stranger says that Shiva joined with Shakti will be able to function only. Shiva joined with Shakti only will able to function. Shakta prabhavitum bhavati. Nache devam devo nakalu kushala spanditu mapi. He can't even stir if he is not joined by his Shakti, which is this goddess. And therefore, you who are the Aradhya, you are to be devoted by Harihar and Virinchi, by Vishnu and Shiva and Brahma. And how a person who has not performed punyas would be able to would be able to worship you. This is what the stranger says roughly. Now this is Ashtabhuja. I think more than that. Dwadash Bhuja Devi, and whatever arms and other things that Shankaracharya and Saundara Lahiri has described, they are put on her, in her arms. There is an Ankush, Shrani, Dhanurban, and Pash, and many other things she is holding. And at the same time, she is showing a sort of grace on the devotee who stands before her. So, Akrita Punya Katham Stotum Prabhati. This is what the stranger says. This is some Krita Punya devotee, a real devotee who has an access to the God, and the goddess is here before him, and she is showing some grace. She is handing over something to him. That is what the painter interprets it that way. And the seat of the goddess, as per the descriptions in Saundara Lahiri, some Ashtadal Kamal or something like that, that is also shown. The Chatra is at the top of it, and all the ornaments of the goddess. His Mukut is described by Shankaracharya, and Har, etc. They are also depicted. So in this way, the painter, the painters or the artists who illustrated this text, they were masters of the text. They thoroughly studied the text, and then they would create the paintings. This is what we find in all such illustrated manuscripts. Then the second stanza, you see how he changes as per his understanding of the verse and as per the context. So the arms have been reduced to 8, and the armaments are also there. So Trishul is there, and one Ankush is there, and a small Dhanush is also there. But the stanza says, Tani yansam pansum tav charana pankye ruva bhavam. The small particle of the dust fallen from your feet, that is picked up by Brahma, and Brahma is able to create all the words through that. Virinchi sanchinvan viracheti lokan avikalam vahatyenam shauri katmapi sahasrena shirsham. The shauri bears on all his head that particle. Hara sankshubhyanam bhajati bhasito dhulan vidhim. And Shiva also picks up that small particle and gets himself besmeared with the vibhuti or bhasma. So this is the vibhuti of the dust of the feet of the goddess, dust fallen from the feet of the goddess. So in the previous painting, the feet is not visible that way. Here the feet, one foot is shown, and otherwise the goddess with all her attire and equipments and ornaments is here. Then the third stanza is Avidyanam Timir Mihirat Deepanakari, Timir Mihirat Deepanagari. I have here the reading. Timir Mihirat Mihiro Deepanakari, Jadanam Chaitanyas Tabakamakranta Struti. Jhari is the reading, as I know. Jadanam Chaitanyas Tabakamakranta Struti Jhari, Struti Shira. Daridranam Chintamani Gunanika Janma Jaladho Nyagnanam Dhanshta Muraripu Varahasya Bhavati. It is Rupak and You are this, you are this. You are the Timira Miro Deepanakari of Avidyas. You are like the shining sun for the darkness of the Avidya. And Jadanam Chaitanya Stabaka Makaranta Shruti Chari. You are the nectar coming out of the Makaranda Stabaka for the Jadas, for the dumb-witted, and for the fools, you can say. And for the poor, you are Chintamani, Puranika, you are the garland of Chintamani. And Janma Jaladho Nimagnanam Damstra, Muraripu Varahasya. Those who are sinking in the Bhausagar, Janma Jaladhi, for them you are the Damstra of Varaha Avtara. So this stanza, and there is some flower decoration. Otherwise, the goddess with her all that attire is here, and the background is changed in all the paintings, and the seating is our seats is also changed as per his understanding, and the colors are changing. Then, if you minutely study the face of the goddess and eyes, they are different in each and every painting. If you look very closely, and as per the context which the painter has understood, he is trying to create the goddess. So the aura of the goddess doing all this, perhaps he wants to suggest. Then, yes, this is fourth. Then fourth stanza describes the feet of the goddess. So the feet are, I was trying to focus, it is not working. So your feet are like this, and who can be more reassuring than you, and who can be giving all this apart from you, all this. This is what the stanza says. But you see, the posture is changed, the expression on the face is changed. So she is providing abhay to everybody, to all the gods, and she's sitting in a more serene way here. And the garland is that mala, Jap mala is also displayed prominently here, and one hand in that posture, that is also providing us, indicating a sort of abhay, that is also painted here. And the simhasana, the asana is in a different, painted in a different way. No, it is, I will do it, no problem. So I won't be displaying much of it, and this is very interesting. He says that after worshipping you, after doing your aradhana, Hari Vishnu could have the power of assuming that beautiful female form by which you could bewitch Shiva. So Shiva is shown completely under the moh of the Vishnu in the form of a Mohini, and in the middle Shiva is there, and two ladies. He is flanked by two ladies. One of them is Mohini, and Shiva is completely in a different gesture. He is appearing. The Uttarardha, the third and fourth quarters of this verse says that Smaropitvam natva ratimena lehyena vapusha. Poetry is wonderful. Even Kamdeva, after going before you, his body, which is to be devoured by the eyes of the Rati, he has the power of dislocating the minds of the sages. So the goddess is there on the left side, Kamdeva is there in the middle, and Rati accompanying Kamdeva. You see, the painter is from Gujarat or Rajasthan, and the way he is doing the headgears, like a pagdi on the head, and the attire of the Kamdeva. So it is the some Rajputs of Rajasthan or maybe Gujarat, and their attire is there. And even Rati, her garment, the way she is wearing her lehenga. So the local colors are there, and the understanding of the poem by the poet. But the goddess, with all her grace and serenity, she appears here before Kamdeva. Then this something very complicated, because being a Tantra text, so there is a reference to Sudha, Sindhu, and Kalpadruma growing there, and there is a Mani Dweep and Chintamani Graha. All these have tantric motifs or meanings, and the mancha or the dais, that is Shiva himself, and you are lying on that paryanka, and in this form, those persons who can see you, they are blessed ones. Bhajanti tvam dhanya katichana chidananda laharim. So this is a different form of the goddess, and Shiva is shown, and goddess is sitting there over and above him, something like that. And whatever is suggested in the first quarter, the painter has tried to create it below. Then, okay, this was some translation, I will leave it. This is also very interesting. Kohat Kanchi Dama Karikalav Kumbastana Nata. Nata is the reading I remember. But okay, there are several variants in this. Rajan Nanavati has studied them, and this edition, you see, it was done after great exercise by Rajan Nanavati, and 4 translations are there. Hindi translations by me of Saundarya Lahari, and English translation by Harish Jhaveri, Marathi translation by Saroja Bhate, and Gujarati translation by Rajan Nanavati himself. Rajan Nanavati was a wonderful person, one of the most outstanding scholars, and a very good person as such. We lost him, unfortunately. So I dedicate this lecture to him. I always dedicate these lectures, such lectures to him. I have spoken earlier also on his work. So his Kanchi is described, which is depicted somewhere in the middle, and the Madhya Bhag is Kshina, this slender waist is there, that is also here. And Dhanurbanan Asham Sanimapi Dadana Karatalai. So all these arms equipments are there. Dhanush Ban is there, and Ankush Pash is also there. And this very, very wonderful and beautiful idiom which Shankaracharya has coined here, Puramatitu Raho Purushika. The Aho Purushika of God, of goddess. I have seen, I know where I have seen this sort of phrase. So this capability or power of the goddess to laugh at any man, to laugh even at Shiva. This is the Aho Purushika. She is more manly than any man. This is perhaps the idea. So the goddess appearing in that form, and rather in a robust form, holding all these weapons also. Then here also the design has been changed, and there is a description of some Kar Kamala, so the hands are depicted that way, and feet are also described, so the feet are depicted that way, and otherwise we can move to the next one. So this was just to give some idea. Yes, this is the 9th stanza, and the whole schema has been changed as per the tantric motives. And Mahimula Dhare Kimapi, I remember Kimapi or maybe Kamapi. Mahimula Dhare Kimapi Manipure Hutavaham. So the Muladhar Chakra, Manipur Chakra, Swadhishthan Chakra, and this Agya Chakra, the 7 circles are described. Sahasrar Chakra, that is also described. So the painter has tried to create these chakras, and the lower part of it that also represents some chakra. And then Shiva and the goddess, they are enshrined in the middle. So because the stanza says that Manopi Bhru Madhya Sakalmapi Hitva, I have Bhitva, Sakalmapi Bhitva, maybe Bhitva, Kulapatham, having done the Vedan of all the Kulapatha, Sahasrare Padma, this is Sahasrara Padma. And within in the central part of that Sahasrara Padma, you are enjoying, you are joined with your husband, Saharahasipatya, we are saying, in that ekanta, in the solitude, you are enjoying yourself with Lord Shiva. So all these chakras and the goddess sitting in the middle of the Sahasrar chakra, that is depicted. Then that is also whole tantra. And the numbers are there, 43, Chaturvi Shri Kanthi Shivativi Panchabhirapi, 5 yuvatis, but it is difficult to trace them here. They are depicted in the small boxes, and if you count, maybe 43 number comes somewhere. And so 4 and 5 Shiva yuvatis, and then Pravindnavi Shambhar Navabhiriti Mula Prakriti 9 Mula Prakritis and Tres Chatwarinshat Sudal Kalabhi 43 Kalas and Trivala Rekhabhi Sardham Tav Charan Kona Parinata. So the Kona is depicted, and as per, I think, Sri Chakra also has this design. He has tried to create goddess in the center, and the whole chakras are also there, and the numbers as described in the text, they are there in the blocks. Okay, this is simple, that Brahma and Shiva, they can't describe your beauty. Tadiyam Saundaryam Tuhinigiri Kanye Tulaitum Kavindra Kavisha Kavindra, it should be Kavindra Kalpante Kathamapi Viranchi Pravutaya. Somehow they are able to describe your beauty. And Yada Lokyot Sukya Damaralalna Yanti Manasa Tavo Bhirdushprapa Mapi Girisha Sayuj Padavim. Amar Lalnas, or the Apsaras, attained the Girishayuj Padvi. They are united with Shiva after visualizing this beauty. So goddess is in a more serene Bhavya Rupa here. And the painter has purposefully depicted Brahma and even Shiva somewhat dwarfed before her. You see, so the goddess is sublime and appearing in a bigger form than them. That is what the devotee also means, and that is what the painter has tried to depict. And they are standing before the goddess, offering respects, regards to her. This is also very interesting. So Naram Varshiyansam Nayana Virasam Narma Sujadam Tavapanga Loke Patitamanu Manudhavanti Shatasha. If you just glance on a 90-year-old person, and by Akshapata, he will be revived and rejuvenated to the extent that he will be flanked by by beautiful ladies, will be coming running after him. Tavapanga Loke Patitamandhavanti Shatasha Galat Veni Bandha. Their Veni Bandhas are all unbound. So they are depicted, the Veni Bandha, you see the lady at the right hand side below. they are following this man. And this man, because he has bowed before the goddess, he has become so beautiful and attractive that ladies are coming after him. And the goddess, and the way the flowers are created above, and the uh, goddess is also in somewhat in a change form. If you see the earlier painting where she is appearing in a more robust and more serene form, there is a difference. So I think this was Saundara Lahiri. And then Gita, I won't take much time because I have spoken on it and that lecture is available. You can listen to it. There is one Alok Bhalla, Professor Alok Bhalla is a very revered person for me. And he's one of the senior most professors of English. He has done wonderful work, you see, in association with Chandra Prakash Deval, who is a poet of Rajasthani language, a Sahitya Akademi awardee, eminent poet. So they both have done this work, Gita in painting. And there are 550 paintings of Gita with the Mewari translation on each verse. And the painter, Allah Baksh, must have painted, Alok Bhalla says that he painted all the 700 stanzas of Gita. But I don't believe. Looking to the text and looking to the painter, Allah Baksh, the way he is interpreting Gita. So he was interested in creating Krishna and Arjuna, and what Krishna is doing and what Arjuna is saying. That was his interest in interpreting the whole Gita that way. Wonderful interpretation of each and every stanza of Gita. So there may be some more paintings which we have lost, but at least 550 paintings they could get in the archives of Jaipur and other places. And they are all by Allah Baksh. And he was some wonderful person because he created 4,000 miniature paintings on Mahabharata also. That also they have published with very good introduction. This Gita introduction by Alok Bhalla is worth reading. He gone through all the commentaries commentary of Gita by Vinoba Bhave and Gandhi, and then so and his own understanding of the text as a text on non-violence and as a philosophical text. And the way Allah Baksh, the painter, also interprets Gita that way. So this is Allah Baksh. And in his writing, he writes, his signature is here below. You can't read it here. I could read it from the book. So he writes, Chitrata Chitte Chitaro Allah Bagashah. But you see what Allah Bagash is, you can have a guess. His father was also Mohammedan Muslim. They were all Muslim painters and great painters, whole line of great painters. And this was Mewar school of painting, which Alok Bhalla says that it is different from Kishangarh painting and Rajputana paintings and Mughal school of paintings. And Rana Pratap and other kings of Mewar, they were employing these artists and they got other manuscripts also illustrated by these artists, and they were great artists. So you can, if you have time, you can switch to my channel and listen to that lecture. It is almost for 1 hour. But that is something wonderful for me. It was almost a revelation that you can understand Gita, that the way Allah Baksh, and in each and every painting, Arjuna's face and Krishna's face differs. The posture of Arjuna and the way he is looking at Krishna, the Ratha, the chariot, the number of spokes in the chariot, they vary. The position of horses varies, and very purposefully he does. And after understanding each and every stanza as I understand. So only 2 or 3 I would show, and then I will come to an end. So they are seated in the chariot, Krishna and Arjuna. They are blowing the conches, and Divyau Shankho Pradadmatu. So this is their posture, but the postures changes immediately. You see, Arjuna, when he has spoken before Krishna his dilemma, and he is very dejected. So Krishna is almost rebuking him. And Arjuna is sitting dejected with his face bent low, and Krishna shining with radiance with his hand like this. But what Allah Bhagash is doing here, you see, every painting is painted at three levels. There is a level below, and there is a guru and a disciple. And the guru is preaching something to the disciple. And then there's another level where some rival warrior is there, maybe from Kaurva Paksha. And then there is another level. In many paintings, there is another level where Hanumana is shown, and Hanumana on the Pataka of Arjuna is shown in different postures. Even he changes his direction. Sometimes he's looking at the army of Kauravas, and sometimes he's looking on the other side. So this he intentionally he will do, that Hanumana as a Sakshi, as a witness to the whole Gita discourse, and then he is seeing the Kauravas and the Pandavas. And here you can't see, it is Hanumana on the top of the Pataka of Arjuna. The paintings are not that small, you see. They are full scape size paper, almost 8 by 10 inches size, and beautiful paintings. And he changes. Krishna, in a more subtle way, trying to convince Arjuna that you shouldn't quit, and you should leave this impotency. And you see, what was a delight for me, the Mewari translation. Alok Bhalla couldn't understand it, so they left it. And in some paintings, I could read the Mewari, and because I could understand it. And the way the Mewari translation is done by some other person who must have been a scholar, but he translated it for Mewari folk. Very cryptic translation. You see, he says, "Hey Arjun, namardai chor." This is what the translation says. Klevyam mas gamah partha, chudram hridaya dorbalyam tektu attishta parantapa. So all this, he would say, Arjun namardai chor. Some other words are also there, but I could read this, and this translation is written on the top of it. But due to the size, you can't read each and every word, because they have even reduced some of the paintings to half page. And in all the painting, the size is 8 by 10. So in the paintings, you could read the text. So the text is there. It's not simply painting. The manuscript part is there. So, and the 3 levels are also there. There is a single warrior, perhaps of Pandava army advancing, and the Kauravas, they are in a more challenging mood. They are advancing, and here Arjuna and Krishna, they are engaged in dialogues. And the designs go on changing this way in all the paintings. And Arjuna expressing his apprehensions, the Kauravas further moving ahead of them. So all these are there. And here you can see 3 levels. Perhaps you can also see Hanumana on the top of the Pataka. And now the focus, after this, the focus goes on more and more centered on Krishna and Arjuna. And their postures are also changed, and their faces change. Sometimes they are facing this side, and now they face this side. And warriors, they are confronting each other before the start of the fight. They are eyeing each other, the Kauravas on this side and Pandavas on this side, and they are glaring. In this way, all the 550 paintings you see. And here you can see the 3 levels. And there is a Arjuna express his misgivings, and I am simply unable to understand anything. I don't know what to do. And here Krishna and Arjuna in a different world, you can say. There is a different world. So the painter views Krishna and Arjuna as an eternal disciple and eternal guru. And Arjuna, in a way, who is supplicating before his guru Krishna, at this level, they are also Krishna and Arjuna. In the middle level, they are also Krishna and Arjuna. And there is a different level over and above. It is not perfectly visible. That the colors are different on the, there is a white strip and then there is a gray strip on that. And in other paintings, Allah Baksh paints some other figures on that level, on the top level, that is the spiritual level, where some yogis are shown. So this was what I wanted to show you briefly, and this is a wonderful world of illustrated manuscripts and a great heritage, you see, such a very rich heritage. There are Jaina manuscripts, and in Buddhist texts also these illustrated manuscripts are there. So this is an area, quite an interesting area, which we can take up for further studies. Thank you very much. Sundar Lahiri.
Do we are going to take up questions now, or shall we move on to?
I wanted to ask just quickly, in one of the these Bhagavad Gita paintings, in one level, I thought it was Dhritarashtra and Sanjay. You said this is some rival, that who are kind of on top on their, because they're the ones who are watching, in a sense. No? One of the first paintings where you were.
Where Krishna and Arjuna are also shown and the pillow level.
Yeah. No, but above in the corner.
So far as I could understand, because I couldn't look at so closely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I may be confused, but there is a painting where at the down level also Krishna and Arjuna are shown that they are in a different life, different world, and this time and space they are different, Krishna and Arjuna, and this is the idea. So I will have to look at the work, let's say, or you can also ask Alok Bhalla, he lives here.
We think he'll also be giving us a talk the next time, so it'll be great.
Can I just ask, are all these manuscripts available for us to see as part of as part of our Samhita, and are they online, or do we have to come to IGNCA to see them?
They're online. These two talks will be online.
No, the actual manuscripts, Saundara Lahiri.
These manuscripts?
Yeah.
The Alok Bhalla manuscripts?
Saundara Lahiri.
Saundara Lahiri. Yes, this presentation will be online, but Saundara Lahiri manuscripts, I think
the Oriental Institute of Baroda.
You have to
Book
go
is
to
published. And the 4 volumes of Mahabharata and 1 volume of Gita painting, they are also published.
But they're not available to us as part of Samhita?
No.
Samhita, sorry, Samhita is focusing on manuscripts and repositories outside India primarily. So that is what we have at the moment. You'll see about 1,100 manuscripts, digital copies on our website. But these Indian repositories is not right now part of our mandate, but these are published.
So will I find copies of them at IGNCA?
IGNCA, you have to.
In the library?
Can I interject here very quickly? I think for the paintings, you can contact, you can search on Google, and various museums, they have these images from various manuscripts. And if you're in luck, you can download them. They don't have any license. So majority of the paintings that you will find here, like from the major texts, you'll find online.
I know, but that's a lot of searching. I was asking if the IGNCA or any library or Samhita in one place has it.
I don't think you'll find all of them in one place.
So the collection of the Saundara Lahiri folios are in Baroda, and it has been published as a book for our benefit by Rajendra Nanavate. And you can buy the book, which has high resolution pictures of the folios. And similarly, the Bhagavad Gita manuscript is published in this book by Professor Bhalla. And the book is available perhaps in a library, and one can see high resolution pictures of the manuscripts.
The book is published by Niyogi Publications. It is in Delhi, Delhi-based publisher.
The Akbar, the Ramayana illustrated Persian Ramayana from Akbar's court Most of it is online. If you go and see under the Smithsonian Museum, very high quality images you can find, and you can download them freely also.
Okay, shall we go to the next presentation,
Yeah,
Naresh?
if there are no more questions or points to discuss on this fascinating talk, we can.
I had a question, but I think we can take it up later also. It's like just a general question I was thinking about. Because like you talked about Mewari paintings, and I've been dealing with the, these people from Mewar, the communities, and I've been looking at the Mewari manuscripts also. I was just wondering, the drawings that you see in the manuscripts, are they in conjunction with the verses, or is there some sort of dichotomy that actually the paintings bring up? Like what I'm saying is, like, if you have one text, the verse is doing some other things that talking about something else, you'll have paintings in the manuscripts that talk about completely different things. So in that sense, how do these paintings actually complicate these manuscripts? That was something that I wanted to know.
It's a good question. But there is a whole tradition of commentaries on Gita. And the Gita being interpreted as a philosophical text, and the painter is trying to understand the levels of meaning in each and every stanza. So, as per our Bhashya tradition, he is trying to create a sort of Bhashya through the painting. That is what we understand. And of course, you can say that the things become more complicated that way, and the simple meaning is presented, given different colors that you can say. But this is a line of interpretation, and the problem is how to present a philosophical text. And otherwise, all the verses cannot be painted that way. It is not simply a text on war. So you have to read the message what Krishna is trying to communicate to. So if you look at the whole series in a holistic way, then perhaps the design of the painter would come out that he is trying to interpret the whole text in his own way. That is what I can say at this point.
After that very colorful world of the illustrated manuscripts, now we have to go to some black and white stuff, which is continuing the exercise we did from yesterday. So what we did yesterday is something not typical. Usually people don't have the privilege of writing out manuscripts, and that was just part of our exercise. And I've prepared transcripts of all of these, and I don't know if you have enough copies, but we'll try and share them. We'll also project it. And then now what we're going to do today is a kind of toy version of the actual exercise that we do while trying to edit a text out of manuscripts. So what do? We collect the various manuscripts of a text, whether they are partial or complete. Then we compare the readings found in these various witnesses. We put together. Are there enough copies? Try and share them if you don't have enough. So this, and of course, we don't, like ma'am was asking earlier about the illustrated manuscripts. We don't have the privilege of working with the actual manuscripts, because why? Because no manuscript repository in the right senses will give you the original, which means the first step in trying to go from manuscripts to text is preparing a transcript. So the first step involved in going in this journey from the various witnesses, the various koshas, as they would be called, to producing a final text is preparing what is called a transcript. So what is a transcript? What does it entail, making a transcript? Anyone? So it usually involves making a very careful, they tend to call it, if these are transcripts that we make and not transcripts made by old scribes, what we try to do is what is called a diplomatic translation. And what does it mean? You could tell us, sir. It's something where you have to be very diplomatic, which means that you don't make corrections. So you copy it as it is. If there's a line that has been scored out, you copy it along with the section that's been scored out. If there's something that's been rubricated, where in red color they've tried to rub it out, or if they've put a hartal on it, so this tells you the origin of the word hartal. So haritala is the name of this yellow pigment often used in manuscripts to, like use whitener today, they used yellow pigment to rub something out, so to put a stop to something. And so now if you put a stop to something out in the real world, you call it a hartal. That's where this term perhaps comes from, haritala. So when you prepare a transcript, you copy out everything that you find in the text and you mark it. So you mark the line break, you mark the folio number, you make a note of the script, which is the script in which it is. And perhaps for the sake of your convenience, you'll prepare these transcripts all in a single uniform script. So if you work in, say, Roman script with diacritics, you transliterate all of your manuscripts into the Roman script. If you work in Devanagari, you transliterate all your manuscripts into Devanagari. Nonetheless, you record the information of what script the original is in. Why? We'll see in a moment why that's important. Because if you see a word that doesn't make sense, if there's something that looks almost like a word, say namana, and you look at namana and you say, I don't think there's such a word as namana, something is wrong here, and you're trying to figure out what it must have been, the crucial information that you need comes from this annotation of the manuscript. If you've written down that this is from, say, Telugu script or Kannada script, then you can go either use your imagination if you know the script intimately. If not, you can go look at a table of characters from that script, and you'll see, in the Telugu and Kannada script, the letter for sa and the letter for na look similar. So this word is perhaps samana. And if we hadn't recorded this crucial information about the script of the original witness, you wouldn't be able to reconstruct. Of course, you can do it with conjecture. You can think of, so what are the words that have something mana, and you can guess, but your guess is not on firm ground. Whereas it's important that we prepare these notes as we are transcribing a manuscript. So that's the first step, you prepare transcripts. And what you have in front of you is actually a bunch of transcripts of the witnesses we had yesterday. Some of you wrote it in the Nagari script, some of you wrote it out in Roman, and not with diacritics all the time. So what you have is transcripts of all of these witnesses that we're going to use now to try and prepare an edition. So this is the first step, which is to prepare transcript. It's somewhat, one could call it, I don't like to use this word, but one could call it somewhat mechanical work. You have to be careful, but you have to copy it down carefully. The next stage is what is called the heuristics, which is that you compare these various witnesses, and then you look at their relative reliability. You see if they're complete or incomplete, if they give you good readings, if the text makes sense, if there are gaps or lacunae in the manuscript. And then you look at their interrelations. Sometimes you find, and this is kind of at the heart of the technique of textual edition using manuscripts, and the technique is called the method of common error. So if I believe that there are two manuscripts that come from the same tradition, that are copies of each other, how do I assert this? So if there are 20 manuscripts that all say asamanaha harihi, Vishnu is incomparable, asamana, and there's a cluster out of these 20 of 7 manuscripts which say anamanaha harihi. What does this tell me? If there's one person who's written this down, you could say, maybe they had a Telugu manuscript in front of them. If there's a bunch of 7, then what do we infer? Many of you have either been students or teachers at universities and colleges. If you find a bunch of answer sheets which all have the same mistake in the same place, what do you infer? Somebody is trying to say something. That they cheated and that there's some kind of a connection between all of these cheats. These are all sitting close to each other because there could be different cheats and they'd make mistakes in different places, but there's a bunch of people who all have the same mistake in the same place. And so this is what we use. This is at the heart of how we track the interrelation between manuscripts. So this is the second kind of major step. We drop this heuristic family tree, if you like. So you can call it the pedigree of the manuscripts or the family tree. It's called the stemma. Yeah. And from these, what are we trying to do by mapping these various manuscripts, trying to see which are the older ones, which are the more reliable ones, which ones derive from a source, and so on. The point of the project is to somehow project the oldest possible source of these manuscripts. We assume that this is a text written by one person in one historical point of time, which need not be the case. As we know, famously, for many, many big texts in India, texts like the epics, texts like the Panchatantra, texts like the Arthashastra, all of these were contributed to by several hands, were added to the Natyashastra. All of these were added to over time. Nonetheless, we work with the idea that in the simplest case, that there is a single kind of source text out of which all of these variations were produced through the intercession of memories and oral and textual transmission. And what we're trying to recover is some approximation of this source text, minus any errors, minus any interpolations. But let me hasten to say already now, before somebody jumps at my throat, that people who do textual criticism are very much aware that what we are reconstructing is kind of a tentative version of the text. Just as you'd find a couple of bones of some ancestral form of a dinosaur, some ancestral form of a horse, and with your knowledge of the various horses and the various species of horse, there's no dinosaurs remaining, but of horses that we know about, we use this knowledge to kind of make a reasonable surmise about what this ancestral horse must have been. We're doing the same thing over here. We have partial access. We have these various manuscripts. You'll see how partial it is and how patchy it is. And then we are trying to kind of synthesize the textual data in all of these and produce some kind of a reliable, stable version of the text. So this is the next step, where we put together kind of tree. And then we'll already see that the branches of these trees, they represent what are called recensions. So as in the case of the Mahabharata, we know that already for a long time that there were stable versions of the Mahabharata that had some kind of regional identity. There was a northern version, there was an eastern version, and there was a southern version, which had been around for at least 1,000 years and perhaps more, and which had stable differences from each other. Now, while there is value in trying to collapse all of this and try to reach back into an older form of the Mahabharata, there is also great value in recognizing these stable recensions or regional variations, which is what scholarship does. On the one hand, we try to have a stable old version of the Shakuntala, but we recognize that there is an Eastern school of the Shakuntala, clearly, which was performed on stage and which has been expanded with lots of extra verses and songs. And there's a more Spartan version of the Shakuntala found in the Kashmiri manuscripts, which is smaller, which has fewer verses, and so on. And now, once we have all of this information about the kind of the family tree of the manuscript witnesses, once we've identified the clusters or the recensions, the last step is the actual edition. So now we take the smallest possible unit, either the sentence or the verse, and we compare the text bit by bit across the various stable versions, and then we constitute a version of the text that is meaningful, grammatical, aesthetically suitable to what we think is the style of the author, and so on. So these are the 3 steps, 3 or 4, however you count it, that are involved in putting together a stable version of a text in textual edition. So with that somewhat soporific introduction, let's go and try and do it for our text. I'm going to try and use the board, and you can follow with the witnesses you have. So any observations, just looking at all the whole range of variants that you see across the witnesses, do you have any instant observations to make? And by looking at them, do you have a sense of, can you say anything about is any of these witnesses obviously related to any other, that they clearly represent the version of one person transmitting it to the another. So maybe take a minute to look at the witnesses that you have in front of you and say something about the interrelations or anything that strikes you as interesting about this set of nine manuscripts that we have.
Dr. Keerthi, just before I can. So now the scribe is certainly left behind. We do have the different versions of the manuscript, and now it's the scholars who are sitting together, because professional scribe and the scholar, because scholar will bring the knowledge as well, no? So the knowledge will kind of preside over in creating the standard version of the text. So my point is, now here scholars are sitting and scribes are left behind, no? Okay, that was first.
Yeah.
And and the second question is that, okay. So now to what you have nicely told us, the steps to creating a standard version of the text. In this case, for example, if somebody has knowledge of Sanskrit, then it's very clear that second witness, although the first witness should have been closer to the manuscript, because you were giving it directly, no? The original.
You don't know anything about these numbers.
Okay. That has the okay. Fine.
And about the first question, first of all, thank you for calling up for that. Somewhat mechanical. It doesn't matter. We're going to look at what we are going to look now is almost like saying if you were doing you're comparing DNA, you're comparing strings of DNA, and you're looking for a match of the nucleotide sequence. So what we're doing here is we're looking for character, of course. We're going to look for as we look for the contour of the thing. So we're going to look for meaningful things, and we're going to look for words that will have unlimited. What it means is background. If you look at this and guess that this is not a formula from an Ayurvedic text, this is perhaps a formula from a devotional text, it's perhaps a mantra. Okay, then you're going to turn on that vocabulary. So, but this is part of the next. So the first step is, let me say, almost. So it's almost mechanical. Yeah. So thank you for that. And so there's a tendency for these first two steps where we make up the and the family tree of manuscripts, and then identify which ones are good manuscripts. And then, since you have to work with a bunch of manuscripts, you can't be juggling it all the time. So you pick one that you think is either one of the older ones or one that preserves good readings, one that has the least gaps. And this is kind of going to be around.
नहीं आ रही चल तो रहा था दो है आ रहा है
put in a register and the things that in classical systems are underlined for the wrong sense, you will often find that people are overcorrected. So all of this knowledge that we place at the end, this is called higher. There's never a clear demarcation. It's on already. Okay. There's a very nice verse in the Subhashita collections about how it's not working. About how Vishnu was having Lakshmi and then he feels that doesn't have enough hands to do what he'd like to do. And the verse ends, Chaturashika Bhuja Shanti no Katina. May Vishnu's desire for an extra hand protect all of us. So I wish I had an extra hand. I could also hold my mind. Anyway, so let's get to this before that. I think.
Why don't you turn those mics towards you? Next to you.
You can't learn how to work with manuscripts online. I'll try and speak through this, but so any observations on what the first bit of the text could be? If you look at the first string, witness 1, witness 2, witness 3, they all go Jaya Jaya Jaya. Witness 4 has Jaya Jaya Jaya, which is a correct word in Sanskrit, but this could be a case of hypercorrection, hypersimplification. Super familiar, they take words and first of all, don't think about which error comes from which manuscript. None of you are responsible for any of these things. Forget about all of that. I see that somebody is making sheepish face gesture. So anyway, and then when we look at 4, it says Jaya Jaya Jaya. I'm just saying this so that you also learn about the types of scribal errors we commonly see. It's useful to know about these. There's nice fancy Sanskrit names for them. There's nice fancy Latin names for them. It's not so useful to learn those names as much as we know the kind of error they are. I can give you a glossary that you can learn all these very impressive words. Anyway, so 1, 2, 3, they all have at the beginning the string Jaya 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 with different word breakups. Witness 4 has Jaya Jaya Jaya, which is some kind of hypercorrection. Witness 5 has Jaya Jaya and then Jai, and this was from the Roman Sanskrit. So you could take it that the Jai, Yahi, as it would be Prakrit, is also some version of Jaya. And then witness 6 is someone who's a bit patriotic and he started to of the national anthem. Jaya Jaya Hey. Also witness 7. Jaya Jaya Jaya. So again, we see that something is consistent across the earlier set of the first 3. You have a triplet of Jayas. And then witness 8 is a bit different. It has Jaya Jaya, 2 Jayas, and then Shama, something. Witness 9, we see Jaya Jaya space Sarvardini, but then there is an addition. You find that somebody has interpolated a Kshayam on top, and it's reasonable to think that Kshayam, from whatever they saw or whatever they heard, is perhaps some variation, some corruption on the Jaya that we saw earlier. So, can we take election on whether it's acceptable that the first string is probably a useful thing. Does this seem like the most reasonable bit for the first string? From the largest variety of anyone have one violent disagreement with it. It seems likely that it seems to be the reading represented in the largest number of witnesses, or some variant there. Yes, so let's kind of tentatively put this down again, because I think we don't really have enough time to draw the stem up. So let's since we know that these are all part of some kind of a family, let's just already do the addition. Let's leave out the stem up. So tentatively, the beginning of a text is Jaya Jaya Jaya. And we don't know the word gaps and so on. So we work with that. Okay, and so let's look at the next bit after that. So it goes in witness 1 and 2, it says Kuru Samvardhini, some small variants. Witness 3 says Jaya 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 Sarvardhini, which is so you already jumped to 5. Sarvardhini is not really a meaningful word. It sounds like word that you know. Witness 4 has Jaya 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 and then Viti, which looks like something from inside somewhere here. So one can easily imagine a manuscript like had somewhere here, and then a bookworm came to the sun, a bookworm came to the knee, and you're left with the verb and the verb. And what you see here, this Viti that you see, is the little bit from the word in between. And witness 5 has Mahavardhini, okay. Witness 6 says Mahavaradhani with a long T. So already when you look at witness 5 and witness 6, you can kind of make a judgment, isn't it? That these two which have very short strings, witness 5 which goes Jai 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 Mahavaradhani, and witness 6 that goes Jai 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 Mahavaradhani. These two must be genealogically very close to each other. One of these is a copy of the other, or one of these has the other like that. So it's the third, the other. Okay, looking at witness 6, it says a Maharakshini, which is a bit different from what we see in most. Those kind of close to this Mahavardhani. In witness 8 again, there's a bit of a group, it's a Jaya Jaya Sham, then Samvardhani. Witness 9 again, there's Jaya Jaya Kshayam, Sarvadhi. And then there's also so witnesses 1, 2, 8, and perhaps 9, they all seem to have this kind of stable correlation of Guru and then after that. We could put that down as a tentative meaning. And while we do this now, what we can do is we can indulge in something higher, do what is the grammatically correct form, somewhat thing. So we write what we think is the grammatical correct form instead of what might be all these regional variations. Okay. So let's do the remaining string after that. So witness 1 goes Vala Raksha Raksha Raksha. Witness 2 goes Vala Raksha Raksha Raksha. 4, 5, and 6 don't have that string. 7 has Brahma Raksha. You see, the penultimate and the word before that, you know, Brahma Raksha. Witness 8 has Bala Raksham Raksham. So it looks like this. Raksham Raksham is a bit like the hypercorrection we saw with the Jaya Jaya. So Raksha seems to be correct. Raksham Raksham. 9 again is Number 9, we have Bala Raksham, Raksham, Raksham. So what do you think this string could be collapsed to? What is likely the stable text represented by this string from what we see in all of these? So you think it would be Bala Raksha Raksha? So this is the thing on the, I think a good analogy is about solving things by vote or referendum, where sometimes, like in elections, we believe it's the fairest way to do things. But about some things, like should we all have access to cheap marijuana, we don't solve these things by vote, because sometimes you need specialists to weigh in. So if we had something like Bala Raksha Raksha, and what do you think it would mean then? So you're taking Bala as the name of the goddess. So then if we need it to be the name of the goddess, and if we're already now in the domain where we are using the meaning to inform us how to edit the text, so then let's say it's about a goddess. It's about a goddess who's addressed in the feminine. Then what would the form be for a feminine? If it's an akara ending word, it would either be Bala or Bale. So it can't be Bala with a short ending. And we find that in a couple of witnesses. So 1, 2, 3, they all have Bala Raksha. So that's reasonable. Then we can prefer that reading over the reading of 8 and 9, which kind of make it Bala, which is in the masculine, which would mean, hey boy, protect us. So we can make the rest of our string Bala Raksha. Okay, and then the next thing to speak about is how many Rakshas? Why? You use the mic, please. Because things go in sets of 3. Yeah, it's possible. So 1 and 2 have Raksha, Raksha, Raksha. And 9, though it has a slightly corrupt form, it has Raksham, Raksham, Raksham. So it's possible that you have Raksha, Raksha, Raksha thrice. Okay, and then the bit after it is, it's what you see the most variation over. You have Chandi, Ra, Varja. And now there's a good example where we can see some errors that can happen because of similarity of characters in particular scripts. So now you have Chandi, and apologies to those who can't see the screen, but you can guess what Ra, Varja looks like in the Nagari script. You have Ra, Varja in witness 1, witness 2, witness 3, but I put a star against this in witness 3 because it wasn't so clear to me the way it was written, whether it was Ra, Varja or whether it was Sharva Ja. Why? Because in the Nagari script, if one is careless, it's very easy that Ra and Sha resemble each other. And now if we indulge in some higher criticism or higher speculation, would you favor one of these readings over the other? Does one of them seem to make more sense than the other? So I'll read it out to you from the various witnesses. 1 has Ra Varja, 2 has Chandi Ra Varja Chandike, 3 has Ra Varja Chandike or Shar Varja Chandike. 7, in the place where you would see Chandike seems to have Chandrika, which is again interesting. You find that it's perhaps this comes from an oral transmission that somebody heard Chandrike or Chandike. 8-2 has Chandi, but then it has Varcha, Varcha. 9 has Chandi and then Varya Chashike. And before that, it has this text, Charita Sarva Chashike, which has been scored out. So that gives us a clue as well. So in the place of Chandi or Chandrika, you have here Charita. And then we have Sarva Chashike. But this is kind of a single manuscript which has this reading. No, actually, the previous one also has Varcha Chashike. So you have one with. Okay, so now when we have this kind of a collation table, when we have this list of variants, can we try and make sense out of this? Can we make a meaningful string out of some of these readings? Any guesses? Any surmises? So we have Chandi, Rarvaja, Chandrika, Sharvaja, Charita, Sarvachakshike, Charita, Varcha, Chashike. Do any of these things remotely resemble something that could make sense in the context?
Witness to.
Witness to? Okay. Why?
The first Chandi, like the address.
Okay.
And then Chandike is also there. All these are actually addresses.
Okay. And what do you do with the Ravarja?
I think it is Avarja.
And then how do you explain the Visarga in Chandi then? You need Chandi, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Any other? Sir, can you help us make sense of this cluster? Do you have any inspired surmises to edit the text?
Sharva rather than Ravarja.
We are assuming that the language is Sanskrit. Yeah. Could it be Sharva? Why? Why Sharva?
Was it a scribal mistake?
It could be yes, good. It could be a scribal mistake. The character could be Shah instead of Ra. But why are you guessing Sharva?
No. Yeah, I was only going through yeah.
Yes, but also because it's a meaningful word, isn't it? So Sharva is a meaningful word. It's in
Chandrika.
not that I know of. Not that I know of. Sharva is a name of Shiva. So exactly. So you have the word Sharva or Sarva. Both of these are meaningful words and which serve our purpose better than Rarva. Yes, and it's often possible that when you're marking a conjunct or you're marking a diacritic, that you're not writing it on the character that you mean to when you're writing in a hurry, isn't it? So this could very well, if you look at these visually, you will see that the Rarva, Sharva, Sarva, that all of these, it's possible for different reasons that one of these is a mistake made in place of the other. So it's very possible that the next bit could be Chandi followed by Sharva something, Sarva something, and now we have to look for the. Yes, please, Arpan. It could be Sharva, it could be Sharva Ja, it could be something. If it were Sharva Ja, perhaps it is Sharva Jaye, the wife of Shiva. But if it is Sarva and you have one Chashike and one Chakshike, perhaps it is Sakshike. So you who are a witness to all the acts of Shiva. So now we would, if one had to enter these readings, either Arpan's reading of Sharva Jaye or my suggestion about, or Sudha Chechi and my suggestion about Sarva Sakshike, we have to, it's a big step, isn't it? Why is it a big step? It's not attested fully in this form in a single manuscript. So this is kind of a big emendation, and one is allowed to make such an emendation if it's meaningful. But what is important for the sake of textual honesty is that you record it. So let's say for a moment.
I mean, some of the suggestions are based on the resemblance between characters.
Yes.
But actually, everybody heard this orally from somebody.
No. So
why would you make a
no.
Why would you make a change? If you heard a Shah, you would write a Shah.
It's a good question.
If you heard a Sir, you would write a Sir. You would not.
It's a great point. It's an excellent point. So two answers. First answer, everyone didn't hear it. So there were three people who saw it, who saw a manuscript, and then they were distracted by us asking what their interests in academia and life in general were. So there was enough.
If they saw it, they would still have seen. They would have seen it, right? They would have seen whether it's a Sir or a Shah.
Yes. Clearly, they are very inefficient people. They saw it and still made so many mistakes.
I mean, I'm just saying that if you heard it, the only loss here would be in in memorization, not in in reading or in hearing.
Well,
isn't
I
it?
wish it was just that. Unfortunately, it's not. One
No.
is because there's the contingencies of memory, but also there's the contingency of pronunciation. There's regional variation. So the most famous example is, my colleague Nirajan, who's from Nepal, and he makes fun of the great Sanskritist from Nepal, who, while reading out a verse to you, if you ask them, if you're reading out a verse to me and you say kosher, now the word kosher is both attested with the dental sh and the retroflex sh, the shankara sh and the shanmukha sh. And if you ask them, say, if you ask a Nepali scholar, so which sh is this? He will say, it's the dantya sa, not the murdhanya sa. So he will say, they speak of the dantyasa, talabyasa, murdhanyasa. And these are, and this is not for a lack of scholarship. The greatest scholars all over the country, all of their Sanskrit is affected by the regional pronunciation. We find right up to the 20th century that even sometimes in the Kavyamala series, when they wanted to write bhasha with the retroflex sh, reflecting the Hindi practice, they would write it with the character kh. They would write bhakha, and people would not pronounce it sh. And also the other way around, you would find that the character sh is written where kh is intended. So if you wanted to say khaga, you would write shaga, and one such scholar would know to read it as khaga. So clearly, what we had yesterday was not a bunch of inattentive, illiterate scribes. What we had is a very good example of what happens in the world of scribes, which accounts for the craziness that we see in manuscripts all the time. And so otherwise, why? It was a closed, small group of people who are interested. Nobody brought you at gunpoint to learn about manuscripts. Most of you came willingly, and you did this exercise willingly. Nonetheless, we see that this degree of variation is seen all the time. Bits get mixed up. Something that should be in the second line, you remember later, and you say, "Oh, there was a kuru somewhere. There was a kuru or a guru somewhere." And you see in a bunch of manuscripts that people remembered some strange word with kuru or guru, and in a small number of manuscripts, the word is attested. And this actually exactly resembles what happens with manuscripts. I think one thing which made it a bit hard was you had very short notice, and the other is that it was a prose string. Whereas if it was verse, people who are used to copying out manuscripts and people who are using to learning in the traditional way, they would quickly memorize the verse. And the structure of verse, the cadence of prosody, it helps us to retain things better. And often there's less lossless translation or transmission when we're working with verse than with prose text. And the poor editions we have of Bana Bhatta are proof to this, that it's harder to retain prose text than verse text. Okay, I think also Arpan has a short presentation to give. So let's go to the last bit. We kind of, so I'm just going to say that for a moment, let's pick one of these readings. So I like Arpan's reading, which was Chandike Sharvajaye. I think my reading is also plausible, which was Chandike Sarva Sakshike. So we can write one of them down, and then how one would notate is Chandike, let's say Sharvajaye. I'm going to rub out some of this. And the convention is to then give a footnote or right there in the text to indicate that this is an editorial conjecture, that we've made a conjectural emendation. This is an emendation, this is a correction we have made. So it doesn't matter what abbreviation you use, or you can find the most obscure biblical editing phrase from in Latin for conjectural emendation, or you can make your own abbreviation as long as there's a table somewhere that explains these words. You could use a Sanskrit word for it. It doesn't matter, but the important thing is that you mark it. And if you think there are two editors, say Arpan and I are editing this text together, and then we say editor 2, conjectural emendation. And then we put the other reading. We say Sarva Sakshike or something like that. Okay, there's very little left now. What's remaining? So after this Chandi Ravarja, witness one says Lalite with the avagraha, the mark that we use to indicate the continuation of a vowel. So Lalite Ati Lalite with the scored out. So perhaps they heard Lalite Ti Lalite, and or they heard another version that said Lalite Ati Lalite. So we find that they've even made some kind of correction. Witness 2, it has a neat reading. It says Lalite Ti Lalite. Witness 3 says Lalita iti lalite, which is also interesting because when you hear Lalite ati lalite, it's very plausible that you hear it as Lalita yati or Lalita iti. And witness 4 clearly is related to witness 3. They must have been neighbors. So Lalita iti lalite, Lalita iti lalite, they share this. 5 and 6 decided that this is not interesting for them. Witness 7 has Kulalite, Raksha Kulalite. Witness 8 has Lalita Lekhati Lekhiti. Sorry, Lalita Lekhiti Lekhiti. Witness 9 has Lalita Lekhati. So clearly 8 and 9 are related to each other. So what do you think is a reasonable way to kind of synthesize all of these readings and derive the most meaningful reading? You think that's good? Anyone else wants to put up a candidate for election?
Yeah, it's Lalite Lalite.
Where do you see it? Do you have a witness that records it? Which one?
The one.
One. So one has Lalite Ati Lalite.
Probably it's Lalite Lalite.
Wait, but you're asking for an emendation, isn't it? You want to drop the Ati. Okay, so you'd like it to be Lalite Lalite. And so you're looking at this kind of stylistic scheme that you have Jaya Jaya Jaya, Raksha Raksha Raksha,
Yes.
Lalite Lalite.
Yes.
Okay, good. Anything else? Any other reading that someone would like to suggest?
I'm just surprised by how frustrating this is.
Yes, of course.
I mean, it's just everybody's just completely clearly wrong, right?
Well,
Well,
but this is how you reconstruct the past. Actually, I think it seems frustrating because we are used to just receiving texts in this nice, neat printed form where sentences are marked with punctuation.
At least one of them should be, somewhat correct. But the extent of the variation is quite shocking, I find.
Yes,
I would not have expected that.
Yeah. Thanks. I think you made my day. This was the point I set out to prove that when you
It's
do
really
manuscript
surprising
work,
that-
it is very exasperating.
Completely, truncated, off,
Sure,
wrong,
yes.
clearly wrong, impossible, etc.
Yes, and in spite of this, we have very readable, workable editions of many of the great texts, and this is the remarkable work of all of those people who chose not to, write theses that said a cultural study of Soundarananda, but people who actually, put their nose to the grindstone and produce these beautiful readable editions. And it comes so the thing is, how do you do this? And if you have a couple of minutes, that's what we should discuss. So I think we can stop here. I'm going to favor her reading, and you'll forgive me for it. I'll buy you a cup of tea. We'll perhaps choose the reading Lalite Ati Lalite because it's frequently seen and it's attested in places. So Lalite Ati Lalite. Lalite Ti Lalite.
Right.
And yes, there was only one which supplied a danda at the end, but we can assume it's a sentence. So the sentence ends here. But I'm glad. Which one? The last one? The original string. No, I think we shouldn't learn it. It's going to disappoint us a bit. So there isn't a kuru here. The string that I had was Jaya 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 Samvardhani. So it was Jaya Samvardhini as one word, Jaya Samvardhini. And the word which was after that, which is kind of preserved in one, maybe this is the Kashmir manuscript because they always preserve difficult readings. So it's kind of preserved in Which one? I'm going to tell you in a moment. So in number 7, so witness number 7 says Jaya Jaya He Maharakshini Gurukula. Jaya Jaya. So this Gurukula, I was very happy someone wrote it. I was hoping someone would write it when I constructed the string. So when you look at these lists of obscure names for the mother goddess in the Lalita Sahasranama, there is this tantric name for the mother goddess, which is Kurukulla. And it's very unlikely, if you aren't internal to the tradition, that you will see this. And if you see the word, or if you hear the word, if you hear Kurukulle, you probably think, this is somebody mispronouncing Gurukulle. And you're going to correct the word Kurukulla. So if one looks up this text called the Lalita Sahasranama, it has the name Kurukulla, Kulachara, and so on. So it's an esoteric name for the goddess. Obviously of non-Sanskrit origin. Perhaps it came from the Prakrits, perhaps it came from Tibetan, who knows? And this, one can see, is kind of lost because we remember words that kind of make sense to us. And words that don't make sense, what happens? They are either dropped, we have elisions, or they are converted into something that makes sense like that. So you either take Kurukula and drop it entirely, or you transform it into Gurukula, which is a familiar word.
Naresh,
The rest is more
I
or less
think
the same.
now we can, you can wind up because now
Yes. Yeah, sure. Let's.
No, you have concluding remarks.
Yes, I'll do those from there. So that's the text. It was Jaya 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 Samvardhini Kurukulle Bala Raksha 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 Chandike Sharvajaye Lalite Lalite. So if you think about it, it's not so bad. We have short of one word, we've preserved most of it. It's a good job here. They're going to kind of pass UGC NET. Okay, so I just have some last remarks to make. I'll make them from there.
And now Arpan will explain one or two terms and one or two concepts in a nutshell in about 10 minutes. And then if there is any question, we can.
Okay, so I just wanted to say that we do find the practice of putting together text and of making additions very hard. And it is slow work, it's painstaking work, often exasperating. Often it's here you had the made-up string that I produced so that we could check it. It's like a workbook where you can turn to the back and there are the answers. But there's no source where one can look up the answers. One just has to stare for a long time at the text. But there are ways in which one can do good textual scholarship. And part of it is actually not just working on the text, but working on the genre. So if one wants to edit a text of Kamashastra, it means you take everything that exists, whether it's a Vulgate edition or it's a critical edition, and read everything available, all of the texts available, the whole corpus from that genre. Then, and by read, I mean actually read the text, not read English or Hindi or Telugu translations, and try and make sense of the text yourself. Note the special senses in which particular terms are used in that discipline. So you kind of have a sensibility of the genres, of the kind of terms of the particular field in which this text is written. Next, if one familiarizes themselves with secondary scholarship and recent scholarship, that'll also tell you about what's been going on in the field. But then, just as the process of writing good history is not just about this mechanical compilation of a rubble heap of tidbits and factoids connected to the event of interest, but it's about collecting these facts and then analyzing them in some meaningful way in light of other related knowledge. The task of a textual scholar is not just to collate mechanically these manuscript witnesses. You don't build a house of the text by creating this garbage pile of all the variant readings. And what we really do is we evaluate these pathantaras, variant readings, and then you try and use your scholarship and judgment in a range of fields in terms of your knowledge of the language, your knowledge of the style of this particular author of this particular genre. Then you look for themes like narrative continuity and so on to pick the best possible reading, and in some cases to conjecture the most suitable reading. Now, secondary scholarship, which relies upon these texts, whether it's a philosophical text or scholarship in philosophy or historical scholarship, can only be on a firm footing if we have a stable and reliable version of the text. So this philological exercise of editing and putting the text together is an absolute desideratum for any such later scholarship. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
In the light of this wonderful presentation, I think yesterday's Professor Tripathi's presentation makes a lot of sense about scribal, the labor that the scribe has to go through and the effort that he puts in to make a good edition of a text. So I think now we over to Arpan.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Project
Yes.
PPT.
Yes.
Just one minute. Just PPT project.
Ah.
Arpan, sorry, we have
Yeah.
10 minutes exactly.
Yes. Mine could be a bit technical. So here you can see the meaning of manuscript. So it is the manus is a Latin word. It means hand, and scrivere, it's a root, Latin root. It means to scratch, just like lick in Sanskrit. It means scratch. So manuscripts, it means manuscript is a handwritten document or composition on writing surface like palm leaf, bark, cloth, metal, etc. And often we use pustaka or matrika as manuscript in Sanskrit. And also sometimes we use puthi or puthi for the manuscript. Next one is chronogram. So chronogram is a dating system, we can say that. So this Webster Dictionary, according to Webster Dictionary, they actually suggest that an inscription, sentence or phrase in which certain letters express a date or epoch. So here, it's a Katapayadi system. It's a typical South Indian system, dating system. So each and every letters here, they represent one particular numerics or the numbers. And from the name of the Katapayadi, it's like Ka, Ta, Pa, Ya. So you can see Ka, Ta, and Pa and Ya, they stands for one. So Ka letter, it means one. And from Ka to Ya, they actually represents 1 to 10. And similarly, from Ta to Na, the dental Na, they represents 1 to 10. And then Pa to Ma, this Pa Varga, they represents 1 to 5. And lastly, Ya to Ha, they represents 1 to 8, and this cerebral Ra, it represents 9. And here, see, a vowel associated with a consonant in a word cannot be counted. So if there is any vowel, that vowel we should eradicate. And then another thing we have to address, in the case of conjunct consonants, the last consonant will be taken. So here it is an example like Setu Bandhya. So the last letter, it's a the and ya. So we take ya, and here year represents 1. So it will be like sa for Dantyasa, we have 7, ta we have 6, and va we have 4, and we take year, so it is 1. And like Ankanang Bhamata Gati, it's a system. So we need to reverse the the numbers, and it would be like 1, 4, 6, 7. So I need to, yeah, this the first line. So here it is a manuscript from Aksheshwara Mahabihar. It's a Buddhist manuscript. It has a phonogram. So, yeah, can I?
Minute. Not able to. Okay, that is it. हाँ, और नहीं हो पाएगा ठीक है
So here you can see for Nepal, so this is in Nepal also. And then it is like Vyoma. We have these handouts with us, right? Just see your handouts and see Vyoma stands for what number. Just check your handouts and see Vyoma, chronogram part. Have you found? Which number? Vyoma means what? Yes, please. Yes, 0. And then it is Netra. See? Yes. And then Kha. 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 Only Kha. 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 0. Yes. And then Chandra Ko. So this is Nepali manuscript, Newari manuscript. So they, instead of Chandra K, they use Chandra Ko. So Chandra stands for what number? 1. So see here the scribe, he mentioned the Nepala Samvat 1020, just like reverse. Next one. Next. So this is another colophon of a manuscript. So I think all of you can read this. This one is very clear. So it is iti mantra mukta valau Bhagavan. This Bhagavan Narada. This yes. Samvade Chaturtha Patala Samapta. So, sir, yesterday, sir talked about the colophon part, and this is the colophon part of a manuscript. Here you can see. Oops, sorry. So here you can see the scribe, he actually highlighted this part. And then he just mentioned Sri Shake. Shake means Shakabda. And here the Shakabda is 1719. And then Kartika Shukla. So Kartika Mase Shukla Pakshe. 4th Some means 4th Monday. Likhitang Shri Koteshwara Sannidhau. So Koteshwara is a place, and I just talked with Naresh about which Koteshwara it could be like. Gujarat Koteshwar or maybe some other Koteshwar, because this is from the Nepal collection, Aksheshwara Mahabihar. So we need to find out which Koteshwar is this. And then the scribe's name is Rajiva Lochana Sharma. Then Shubhamastu. And yesterday sir mentioned that here this verse, Bhagna Prishti Kati Griva Baddha Mushti Radho Mukhang Kashtena Likitang Granthang Yatnena Paripalayet. So that is how a colophon looks like. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Arpan, for that marvelous exercise in close looking at the manuscripts on a thing, and complement to the exercise that Dr. Naresh Keerthi did, that extraordinary journey through Saundarya Lahari. So may I now we come to a conclusion, and please join us for tea. But before that, may I request our project director, Dr. Sudha Gopalakrishnan, to honor our guests.
First of all, a big thank you to both Professor Tripathi, Naresh, and also to Arpan also for a fascinating 2-day presentation and also I'm sure that, and to all of you for so enthusiastically taking part in this, and I'm sure that all of you would have taken something away from this, and then the next time you see a manuscript, you would be seeing it with a different eye than you have been. And I think my only request is to keep your eyes open and try and take something from this, and also try and pursue, if not learn deeply. I think it's a wonderful opportunity that all of us have been presented today. I thank each of one of you, and also thank you for my own colleagues also for putting it together so beautifully. What remains is for me a small little. It's a matter for the appreciation and respect for you. So let's go for tea.
Yeah.